Hello, today I would like to talk about the systemic problem that we have of perpetuating abuse onto victims. We have a system set up of victimizing victims, in my opinion. So the way this is we have an epidemic of a narcissistic personality. We see it all over the place. And what that is that's traumatized people traumatizing other people. The word trauma is just a Greek word that means injury. We have grown up now on a culture of people being taught for the last 100 years to let your children cry it out. Just let them suffer on their own, and eventually they'll realize that they need to be independent as children. Praise God that I had done early research in the attachment theory and I didn't raise my child in this way. Third world countries will hold their child for at least the first year, if not the first 2 years. Their feet literally do not touch the ground, and that's how I raised my son. He was always with me because I wanted healthy development. Okay, and so that's what the research in attachment theory shows. The faster you respond to the child, the more healthy they will be, emotionally, mentally, psychologically, okay? And the longer you take to respond, the more unhealthy. If you also couple that neglect, okay, and abandonment in with abuse, whether it would be physical or sexual, verbal, whatever, you're going to compound the problems of the child. So children are created by God, and that's why they come out with that intrinsic understanding that their life has value. That's why a child cries. Now, they had debated throughout the past 100 years if that's why the child was crying or not. It seems obvious, but but they had to try to figure this out. Okay, so the child cries because intrinsically they know that they have purpose, that their life has value, and that there's a reason that they're here. Okay, and so they're sending the signal, I need help. And so they cry out, and they understand that some human being needs to come and address their issues, and that child will grow up and be healthy. But if the parents or whoever is there to provide care do not respond, then what they're teaching the child is, no, you were wrong. Your coding is wrong. You don't matter. We're not here to help you. We're not here to help you become who you're supposed to be, and we don't care about the plan and the purpose and the destiny that God has for your life. So just be quiet. And that's ultimately what the child will do. It's like a person who smokes. Your body knows that you shouldn't have smoke, okay, and toxins in it. So at first you'll cough, okay? That's your body saying, don't do this to me. Okay, it's an adverse reaction. But as you continue to smoke and smoke and smoke, your body gets the message, oh, okay, this person doesn't care about me, the body, so I'm just going to have to internalize this and do what I can to try to get this toxin out of me. Okay, and that's why you stop coughing, because your body gave up the fight. That's exactly what happens to the child when they stop crying, with this whole let them cry it out notion. So when a child is in a situation of abuse, abandonment, neglect, whatever they're experiencing, what the imprint is that you don't matter. It's nobody else's job to help you. Your value as a human being is compromised. You're not like the other people. Okay, you therefore have to work and in some way earn value and earn favor. That's why these people become extremists. That's why, you have your hyper narcissistic personality where, they're grandiosity, right? They're the greatest. They're very focused on how they look, or some type of gaining possessions. They want to be better than everybody else in some way, because in that way, when I'm finally the best, when I look better than everybody, when I smell better than everybody, when I've got a nicer car than everybody, when I've got more money, when I've got, a better job, when I have, a better education, whatever it is, whatever vice they're using to try to level up on other people, then maybe that's when I have value. And a lot of that conditioning is taught by the family. Like, okay, you've got to sit at the preppy table. You've got to have a certain education. You got to go to a certain school. You've got to have a certain career, or whatever it is, you know. You've got to be the funniest person in the room, whatever it is. So there is your negative imprint. And so these people now are so inward focused because they're always looking at themselves. How am I measuring up to all the other people who already have intrinsic value and are just loved for who they are, right? And so instead of giving out energy, you're taking in energy, like a cancer cell. A cancer cell is a normal cell will spin clockwise and it gives off energy. A cancer cell is one that there's been something wrong with it, and so it's spinning counterclockwise and it's absorbing energy from the neighboring cells. The neighboring cells are like, sure, we'll give you energy, but when you keep demanding and demanding and demanding that energy, the neighboring cells will run out of energy because they're just giving it to this one cell, and they themselves begin to spin counterclockwise. This is how cancer spreads. And this is how cancer spreads in cultures where that person who was wounded, okay, that traumatized person, because they're so inward focused, you have to accept me, you have to love me, you know, everybody looking at me, right? They're sucking the oxygen out of the room, okay? And then everybody else now is destabilized by that person, okay? And that's how trauma gets passed on generationally. You know, that's why when you walk into your workspace, like my one place, it was so horrible from all of these bitter, toxic people. It would just suck the life right out of you, right? You can just feel it. And so here now we have this epidemic, right, of all these people who are doing whatever it takes, sucking the life out of everybody else around them, trying to gain approval because they were negatively imprinted as a child, okay? So what happens is when we are born, we have a certain sphere, let's say, you know, here is your domain. And in life, other people are to come along and edify and build you up. So you start with X space, but each person that comes into your life, it should be X plus 1. Each encounter, you should walk away feeling better. You should walk away feeling like they've added something to you. You're like a flower that's blooming. You're like a turtle that came out of its shell. This is positive and healthy. Okay, so not only did you just take up that space that you were born with, but your whole life people have added to you, and so now you're taking up more space. Okay, but you're not so obnoxious that you're like choking the life out of other people. This is what it means to be airy and pure and free. Okay, when you look at this from a scientific standpoint, okay, electrons in their most outermost shell, okay, are always bouncing around. They can't even find them. They're saying they're not even in one dimension, okay? Like I'm sharing electrons with this car, with these trees beside me and everything else around me. So I'm airy light, okay? So when people are pure, they can come together and everything just kind of homogenizes, you know, even from you know, a scientific standpoint, they're saying that if they looked at you as just electrons, they wouldn't even be able to identify you, okay? They're saying that they can't even tell if you're alive or dead or whatever, right? So you got to get into all that science. But at any rate, what happens is you just share. Everybody's like sharing their electrons and their orbits, and nobody's interfering with anybody else. It's almost like you're dimensional, okay? But when you are somebody who has this presence where there's this darkness where you're just pulling in energy, you will press in on other people. So instead of coming and adding to people, you're pressing them. Because it's not freedom. You're not giving that person, when you're an abuser, you don't give that person the freedom to be themselves. You don't give them the freedom to speak and air out what their ideas are. You either interrupt them or you suppress what they have to say. You don't even let them speak in the first place, or when they do speak, you're always counter biting, chewing at what they say. No, rah, 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 rah. You know, it's only my way. Let me talk. Let me be on the radio waves. When you do that, you press in on somebody else. You depress them. Okay, that is a trespass against them. Not only did you not let them expand, but you have compressed them. This is what abuse does. It pushes people in smaller. When people make you feel lifeless, when you walk away not feeling beautiful and like you've just opened up. No, when you walk away feeling like you're cringed in and you just suppressed in upon yourself, that's abuse. Okay, that's this trauma. Okay, and so we have a culture of people who are doing this to one another. Okay, I can't build on you because I'm too worried about taking care of myself, because the whole world has walked away from the knowledge of God. Okay, and that Jesus Christ gives us life and life abundantly. So everybody's out there digging around using all of these systems that are never going to give them life, okay, to try to make themselves feel whole, right? What am I talking about? Like, people feel like if I get this education, if I get this job, if I get this pay raise, if I get this husband, if I get this certain weight, if I get whatever, you know, whatever if I get, then I'll be happy. They're chasing after the wind. Vanity and vexation, okay, is what that is. And so when you have people who have experienced a difficult situation, okay, when you have a difficult stimuli, when something has entered in and it has trespassed within you, okay, your body, your emotional system, your nervous system, everything about you is going to say, boop, 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 there was a trespass. And if you've been unhealthy in your rearing, okay, you're not going to be solid enough to say, hey, boundaries, you've crossed the line, step back, everybody step back, you can't do this to me. Because what the definition of abuse is that they've trespassed against you your whole life. They've taken away your boundaries. You have no space. And what people do when they have had this, okay, it's too painful to be in this paradigm where you feel and believe that you should have value, but you're not getting it. Instead, you're getting the opposite. You're being devalued. It's too much for the mind to try to put themselves around. So what people do is they disassociate. They leave their body. They leave their mind just goes elsewhere. Okay? And a systemic issue of this, a systemic life of this, what you do is your mind won't be in the here and now, in the I am, where God is, present, full, here, healthy. No, it will go back and it will ruminate. It's circling. It's like in a tornado of you can't get out of a particular thought. You're in a certain modality and you're stuck there for however long you're stuck. It can be years, okay? Where he did this to me, she did this to me. Can you believe it? And you just ruminate and whirl like I said, like it's a tornado. You keep going round and round and round again. That's very unhealthy, okay? Or you can shoot off. The tornado can shoot off and be into the future. Oh my gosh, who else is going to do this to me? Oh my God, what if this happens? And oh my gosh, what about this? This is anxiety and depression, okay? That will manifest as a result of continuous external stimuli acting upon your system, okay? And so here's what has happened with psychoanalytics, okay, that has happened of all of this research that the big system is going to quote, quote, help us, right? So here you are, you're the victim of whatever stimuli, whatever life circumstances happen to you. And so what they tell you, you know, go talk to somebody or whatever. Well, there's the DSM, right? And that is like the Bible for psychology, okay? And it is going to say, if you do X, Y, and Z behaviors, then, okay, then we're going to put this label on you. And because we have this label on you, the remedy to fix that, okay, is to take X, Y, Z medicines. Okay, and now you can be a slave to this system your entire life, and you now will be viewed by that label. You will be viewed in every aspect of your life through the paradigm of that label. Okay, never to be set free. Once you've been quoted as having some issue, okay, that will be with you forever. Okay, and so they're going to tell you that it's a chemical imbalance in the brain and whatnot, right? Okay, and we need to fix this. And once you get to the point where if you've taken medicine your whole life for these things and the medicines aren't working anymore, they're going to want to do surgeries where they actually put something under your skin, run cables up to your brain, and they're doing shock treatments on people's brains. Okay. And here what it is they now are suffering at the abuse of this system. This system is broken, okay? Because there is no proof, okay, that these diagnoses are purely objective, okay? It's subjective, rather. It's purely subjective. And people are living in these conditions. And I want to give you an example of somebody that I was close to, okay, and what I'm talking about here. Now, people can have real issues, but this is what I'm talking about here. There's somebody that I was close to, and they're in this circle. Their paradigm that they live in, they're around people that people don't have the same level of ethics and morality as my friend, okay? And so when my friend is around these people, she adversely reacts to them because she doesn't like how they act and what they do. She doesn't approve of it, okay? And so she'll have some reaction where she gets upset. She might get mad. She might get angry, and she'll say, like, I don't want around these people. And she has difficulty from the life of trauma that she's lived. She has difficulty managing stress. She doesn't know how to have constructive conversations. She doesn't have boundaries where she can say, no, I do not want to be around these people, period. Okay, so she continuously gets subjected to them, and she's doing her best attempt to reconcile this. So her husband came and said, you have a problem. Look at how you're upset. Nobody else here has a problem. You're the problem. You need to go talk to somebody and get on medicine. Okay? So this person calls me, tells me this whole situation. And I was like, you're the only sane one in the whole group. You're right. It's just that you're like a worm in battery acid, and you're responding to this toxic situation that you're in. And she was like, are you sure? And I said, I promise you I would tell you the truth. This is absolutely the truth. And she walked away and didn't get on medicines. This is what I'm talking about. But if she would have went to this doctor's, right, I believe that they would have told her, hey, you've got, you have all these anxiety issues. Look at how you're acting. We'll get you on some antidepressants, some anti-anxiety. Let's get you on, some sleeping pills. Let's get you on this regimen, and we'll get you whole because you have a chemical imbalance in your brain. You're not happy. You see, your brain doesn't know how to make serotonin. It doesn't know how to make good chemicals. Okay, so let's get your brain good. And hey, if these chemicals don't work, let's do shock treatments. But here's the problem. Her problem is her environment. Somebody needed to say to her, hey, you need to get away from these people because these people are toxic. Okay. And if you got away from them, your brain might release serotonin, happy drugs, because you're happy that you're no longer in this toxic, unethical, unscrupulous environment around these people that drain the life right out of you, that are sucking and compressing the life right out of you. What if you were to be around people who support you and love you and allow you to have boundaries, and not only let you have the space that you have, but they let you bloom and become who you're supposed to be, and you don't have to live in fear and subjugation. You don't have to deal with the nonsense, worrying about who's going to come do what nonsensical thing at any moment. Her brain would be happy at that point. Her brain would be able to produce happy hormones. This is what I'm talking about. This is what we're doing. And we have over 60 million people who are taking brain altering medicine. Like half of the population, if not more, is taking drugs legally or illegally. Everybody is self-medicating in some way. And the system, this is what I believe, that the system is this parasitic system that wants to victimize these people who have already been traumatized by other people. So you walk around thinking, I have a brain problem because I'm unhappy. There's not only was I a problem because I didn't have intrinsic value, but now I have a brain problem and I've got to deal with this brain problem, and I see the world and myself forever through my brain problem. And it's really because you just haven't been around people who have loved you, valued you, supported you, taught you, okay, how to feel comfortable in your own skin, and validated you, okay, and told you that you're beautiful, you're fearfully, you're wonderfully made, and that you could even become even better. Even though you're fabulous right now, there's more growth and more opportunity that you could reach. Let's partner together and become all that you were destined to become. This is what I'm talking about, where systemically we are putting people, we are putting them in this parasitic system where we're further destroying them. And people on these mind-altering drugs are completely disassociated. They are taking them away from their very being. And they're trying to almost castrate them from feelings, from their emotions. You know, you have them in toxic relationships. Instead of telling them how to get out of these toxic relationships or how to have boundaries in these toxic relationships to put people at a distance, okay, let's just separate them from their unhappy feelings, because their unhappy feelings are the problem. But the unhappy feelings is the body, okay, the psyche letting the external world know, hey, I have a problem with this. Like when I went into this toxic, highly toxic workplace, okay, the one individual was so narcissistic, okay, such a control freak, okay, that I could just feel negativity coming off of her. Okay, it just clouded the room for me. It shut me down 100%. I couldn't even speak in her presence because I couldn't stand the feeling of being near her. It was such a dark, powerful, nasty emotion and feeling and energy that came from her. I couldn't stand to be near it. And I saw the manipulation that she used on other people, where she was gaslighting them, okay, and pretending that she was friends with them, okay, but she was just trying to get in control because her life, she came from a life of abuse, okay, and so she used fear and manipulation and control and power so that she would be in control to feel safe. If she was in control, then she could feel safe, and then things ran according to the way she wanted them to run, and she was prepared to do whatever she had to do in order to feel safe because of the toxic world she grew up in. But it was so negative to be around that I was like, I can't breathe in this room. There's no room for me here. It's so unhospitable. Okay. So people, okay, need to be taught how to put boundaries. They need to be taught the love of God. They need to be taught that Jesus Christ, okay, is the truth, and that he can make you whole, that he can put you back together again, that you don't have to rely on the world systems, this parasitic system, okay, and that you can have peace, joy, and abundance, life abundantly. The Lord took me from a broken, shattered person, and he put me back together again. And he brought me back into the I am from my disassociation. Year after year, okay, God is bringing me more and more together, making me whole again, okay, from the shattered, hot mess that I used to be, from the trauma that surrounded me and plagued me, okay? And this is what I want for you. I hope this is helpful. God bless you.